Last Thursday, I spent a portion of my evening in the basement as severe weather alerts triggered that tornado siren right across the street from my office. And while I was lucky, some areas of central Illinois weren't, and they got rocked by tornadoes. That was on top of other severe weather earlier in the week last week, ripping the roof off an Animal Protective League building just north of the capital city. Now in Louisiana, severe storms caused flooding and other damage. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry, he held a news conference yesterday discussing those recovery efforts.
Secretary of Homeland Security and Congresswoman Julia Letlow have both assured me that when we meet the threshold, and that's important as well, we have to meet a threshold to be able to activate the federal declaration. And that's what we are frantically trying to do in a very methodic way. And the only way we do that is when people go to damage.la.gov and fill out that information.
Now, it's been reported there were several tornadoes that touched down in Louisiana as first responders continue evaluating that damage. But back close to where I'm at right now, here in Illinois, where we had severe weather, Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday talked about the fatal impact tornadoes have had in one area of the land of Lincoln.
I just talked to the mayor. I talked to the county chair in Effingham yesterday. Spoke with the mayor of Charleston just a few hours ago, and a couple days ago to the county chair in Coles County. Trying to get around Jefferson County also, where there's been, as you know, 2 deaths and other devastation there. So trying to get around. I mean, I've made calls, and now I've been, making my way around to the various areas. What I don't want to do is interfere with the recovery that's happening in each of those areas. So I've been careful to talk to local officials about when is it sort of clear enough so I'm not disrupting anything that's ongoing.
While the economic impacts and the taxpayer cost of these recent storms across several states isn't known yet, it's expected to be extensive. And to top that off, that's on top of other disaster funding for taxpayers across the country, including wildfires in California and flooding over at the East Coast. Now, in Illinois, Pritzker reflected on what kinds of response would be coming from taxpayers through the federal government.
I mean, one of the big challenges these days, I think you may be aware, is that FEMA is a mess. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, they've cut back significantly on the support that they give when there are emergencies. They are slow in responding with the dollars that they promise. There are only so many dollars that a state has for what should be covered by federal emergency management. So here's what we do at the state level. As you know, there's got to be a county declaration of a disaster, and then a state declaration, and then we gather up the costs of recovery and submit that to FEMA, hoping that we can meet the threshold and get a response that's favorable for people who live in the area. That both comes from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, as well as directly from funds that are available to FEMA.
So what does that overall funding budgeted for FEMA look like in 2026? Well, for that disaster funding for the entire year, approximately $34 billion that was given the authority to spend. And that's carrying over a balance of $19 billion from last year, with $15 billion in new appropriations. Now, about $15 billion of the total $34 billion has already been obligated. As to the recent history of federal funding through FEMA, it's gone up and down, depending on which year you look at. Let's take a look at the total obligations incurred by year, where in 2022 it was $43.5 billion. 2023, it was down to $38.2 billion, up slightly in 2024 at $39.7 billion. In 2025, $52.9 billion. But to date, about $14.9 billion. Now, just this month, disasters that FEMA is tracking include a fire at Utah Iron. That was back on June 19th. And then you also have a Washington Upriver fire. That was June 16th. And Nebraska South Fork fire on June 9th. Again, those are just from the past 3 weeks worth of disasters. Now, for federally declared disasters, states generally are required to kick in a portion, around 10 to 25% of non-federal matches for public assistance grants. An example of this for flood aid: for every $1 billion in flood aid deployed, affected states collectively, they're responsible for roughly $100 to $250 million. Now, some disasters with recent payouts of federal tax funds include: earlier this year, Louisiana had severe winter storms. The total public assistance that was obligated, $3.9 million. What about California wildfires and straight line winds from January of last year in 2025? The total public assistance grants that were obligated, $36.6 million. But they also include total amounts for individuals and households of $175.7 million. And that individual assistance went to 35,100 people, equating to around $5,000 for each individual approved. But back to Louisiana, yesterday, Landry said local officials, they're not going to be waiting around for the federal government.
The good thing is it actually is based upon proportionality. And so it is a number, but it's based upon that percentage of, and so again, we've got criteria that we've got to meet. We are frantically working to find out when. Here's the important thing. We're not waiting on the federal government. I have spoken to your state and local officials, and the state is employing those resources. We pulled the trigger on those 50 trailers. We're working with the casino to make sure that we have those rooms available. We're also working, utilizing the debris contracts that we have over at GOSEP to lean in, working with your local government to ensure that we have a smooth transition, that we can pick that trash up and pick that debris up when people start cleaning their homes.
Now, in the immediate future, officials urge residents to always be aware of developing weather situations and to be prepared with emergency kits, including food, water, and medicine. We'll be right back with more from the States.